Synchronized.
Devil in a red dress. Call 911, I'm a killer. You know I hate to confess. Bang bang, got my hand on the trigger. The devil in a red dress. Call 911, I'm a killer. You know I hate to confess. Bang bang, got my hand. Call
Last video, Kiddo Mark.
Yo, what's going on, travelers? Come see with part 2. Here with Juju Kaisen, Boruto Debates, you know that is.
Yeah.
So we're hitting you guys with another part 2 of the new moon. New moon? Was new moon? No, it was a dark end and total lunar eclipse. So this is probably gonna be one of my favorite videos. I'm not gonna lie. But essentially, I think the focus that I wanted to take this video is some theories that I had, right? Just going back, you checked out part 1. You can see how we kind of discussed certain moons, certain eclipses, and the phases of moons, and how they all kind of symbolize and possibly foreshadow the future of Boruto. We know that Kishimoto likes to, dabble in different mythology, and now science. He's did it in the past, and I'm pretty sure he'll do it again. Yeah, I really like the idea of this implementation that he's doing, and I think that it's kind of stemmed from the beginning of Boruto. So I tend to give Boruto this this hate, if you will, right? Um, my experience with anime, this was if I were to just if this were had no connection to Naruto, I probably would never read this or watch this anime. I'm just being completely honest. Because that's what I'm here for, right? To give you guys complete honesty and reviews and in my reviews and discussions, and I guess that's what we're here to bring you as well. So that's just what I believe. Yeah, how do you guys feel about um certain dojutsus being linked to moon theories and moon phases?
I completely agree with it. I do think like the different descriptions of the eyes that we see with Damon, we also see with Ada with her half, or I think it's a what's it called, a quarter crescent. I don't know how you describe it, but she has like a half moon, or I think that's Damon with the half moon, and I think Ada has a quarter moon. And then people are kind of saying that Cold's eyes are like a solar eclipse type of thing. And I do see that. And obviously we have Boruto's eyes, which is the Jogan. And my specific theory about all this is basically Amato tried to recreate something with the Jogan through the eyes of Damon and Ada. I don't think he directly created the Senrigan. I just think they're derived from Otsutsuki's. But I do think how he got their bodies and how he manufactured them into being cyborgs was for the purpose of trying to recreate a version of the Jogan, and maybe produce one of the functions of the Jogan. We do see the Jogan is basically capable of doing a multitude of things, different variations of dojutsu that we've seen: Byakugan, Sharingan, even Rinnegan slightly as well. So the Jogan is like a combination of many dojutsus. So what I think Amato was trying to do was recreate a certain ability through the eye sets of Ada, Damon, and potentially Code as well. So I do agree with the whole moon theory, and I do think it connects to like the Otsutsuki Moon Clan, otherwise known as Toneri's clan, and Amato as well. So yeah, I actually like that theory.
Myself, I also think like the Jogan is like the originator of dojutsus in general. Just for the connection to the Rinnegan, teleportation, stuff like that, different dimension going back and forth, and seeing chakra networks, seeing chakra weaknesses. Yeah, I think it's the originator, and I don't think Amato just did this just because, right? This is not no random creation of an android, right? I think something was in those bodies to produce that. Like, how can you just make a electronic eye and just sees everything to present? Like that's not no random thing. That's just okay. Oh, I guess I found a new thing to use. One of
Yeah,
these eyes and Damon.
it's definitely
So, I
very
mean,
suspicious. I'm sorry, continue. Cut you off.
I doubt somebody human that smart that he can make something so crazy like that. I ain't never seen nothing like that, right? It's more advanced than we've ever seen in Boruto, even more advanced than Orochimaru. Orochimaru, I mean, he's smart for his time, right? Using a clone body, having the ability to use Senjutsu chakra inside of that. I mean, not Senjutsu chakra, nature energy with inside of that, right?
Right. Yeah.
He's smart of our time, but a model takes it way further, right? You see a simmering on what Damon does. Now you see what Code does. And you know Code is leading to Otsutsuki. So who's to say not? Matter of fact, you see all these characters linked to Otsutsuki, right? Boruto, Kawaki. Oh, now you have Damon and Ada, which also have moon to the moon dojutsu. Say they're not Otsutsuki. It makes sense to me.
So I like the idea of a motto having some type of role in the big plot. That I do, and I also like the idea of Orochimaru. I think the the fact that he's still, you know, him and Tsunade are pretty much the only two Sonic left. They had to bring back Jiraiya through a clone. Um, but he's always been known to have many secrets and to be able to keep many secrets. There's some jutsu that he used in part one. If you go back and rewatch part one of Naruto, that were used that we didn't really start to appreciate until like part two. So if there's anyone that has some type of secrets or you know has some type of involvement or knowledge about the inevitable plot, then I definitely think that Orochimaru may know, especially if Amato is involved. Because he's a little bit too suspicious for me on that part. I do agree with you, the Boruto Debates. Yeah, I agree. I gotta agree with you with that. He's just too suspicious. The thing, I still think he has this plan. I don't think he's gonna like die by code. There's speculation about him dying by code. Nah, not gonna happen. He's not gonna die. Because they still haven't given us backstory about how he's able to hang out with Kara as a human that doesn't use chakra, um, at least around people. You know.
Well, they kind of have explained it though. Like they kind of explained that he was basically around Kara to be the scientist to basically help find Jigen the correct vessel. So like his role was thoroughly explained, but I do agree about like the backstory portion. Like we do need to see like a backstory of how he exactly or directly met Jigen or like how all of that went down. That would be cool. But other than that, I think we know his role in Kara. But as it pertains to like the current events in Boruto, I think it is a possibility Amato could die and he could like reincarnate as like a Otsutsuki or some crazy stuff. Like he has a karma on somebody else, like a synthetic karma where he can like reincarnate on Kawaki or something crazy. I've seen theories around that, but that's just a theory. I've seen other theories along the lines of like Amato not dying because like Kashin Koji pulls up, or maybe Kawaki and Boruto come through like a time portal. It's many things that could happen, but I would also agree. I lean towards him not dying. I just think his role for Konoha is just too impactful, and they need a character right now in terms of like combat wise and just intelligence wise. So they need him, and they will strive to go after him. And I think Ada will somehow come in between, maybe not betray Code, but I think she will say something in terms of dialogue or rhetoric that will stop Code from killing Amato. But yeah, I pretty much agree, Zone. I don't see him dying.
I also don't see him dying. I think his death right now it's gonna hurt the series a little bit because we need to see a little bit more, unless they give a backstory right after he dies. But I want it right now. I want Ada to stop Code. They have to talk. If I can't see no dialogue between them two, what the heck we doing? I need dialogue from Code. No, my bad. From Ada. I want dialogue from Amato. I want to see them talk. We got to see that. I want to see what you already know. We had the theories of potentially being father and daughter. I need to see
Possibly.
that interaction. I
But
need to
I
see more
mean,
of that interaction.
then again,
Confirm they
like
not.
she never called him father, right? That was one of the indicators that, like, to me, for me, I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess they're not related. He didn't call her daughter. She didn't call him father. I was like, okay, next, I guess. Oh,
We in the perfect situation where dialogue can be had, backstories can be had. They're all in the room. Oh, he's so rash. Just he won't let anything settle. He want everything, bro. Just let the thing settle. Let's see what's going on. Let's breathe for a second, man. You got your powers. Calm down, bro. You've been running the whole series. Calm down, bro. Sit down. Let's
I've,
listen.
I mean, a lot of people were shocked that he'd get his powers, but it's pretty much a given. Like it's being like foreshadowed, you know, hinted, like you know, code. There's lack of backstory of the code. Like something had to happen to make him a relevant character again. This was it, and that's why I was like, okay, well, cool. That's done. That's in the books. Next, right? And that's when I started looking into the theories. Well, a little bit, you know, I guess maybe, I don't know, whenever the video released. I think it was sometime before or sometime after start of the chapter release. But I did mention in my previous video, there's two main theories I wanted to kind of bring up. One of those being, of course, the moons, the crescent moons, the half moons, and how they resemble the specific eyes of Damon and Ada, and even Code now. He's fully transformed. I'll probably make a separate video on him just alone to fully gauge it, but I do have some. I feel like I do have some understanding as to what if he does have a dojutsu, not exactly what it would do or mean, but what it resembles, right? So if you look at it, if you stop the video right now, go to Google and search annular solar eclipse. In my opinion, that's what it could resemble. Right? You've got Ada for the crescent moon with the sun behind it, like you would see it from the Earth, right? Or from space when it transforms or when it's activated. And then Damon, we haven't seen his dojutsu activated. Maybe he's just using it like Ada's using hers all the time. That's a possibility. But then also how I mainly kind of got into the the reason why they foreshadow. If you look back at Kaguya, how during the time that Kaguya was around, you would see the red moon, right? Infinite Tsukiyomi, which was her dojutsu, reflected upon the moon. Excuse me. It was red, right? So if you think about it, a total solar eclipse, you can Google this. Total solar eclipse may become red for about an hour, and that's about it. There's no really time difference. I'm not saying there's correlating it to the time, but I'm saying there's some resemblance, and the and how each time there's a vital scene, you look back at, Kakashi accidentally killing Rin. There was a red moon. If you look at these specific events and the time difference and when they take place, you can see, whenever there's a full moon or whenever there's a distant moon, you can see. Just pay attention to those events. I haven't actually went back and checked every single event, but I guarantee there's some correlation between those events and future events, right? I also mentioned how Mitsuki kind of brought up the fact that he will be the new moon, right? When he was speaking to Orochimaru. Now, I think that the reason why we are seeing more solar eclipses events, well, that pretty much it's too obvious. Total solar eclipses happen way more often than a total lunar eclipse. You can Google this. Now, what would be the lunar eclipse? In my opinion, I mentioned it could be the final Otsutsuki, right? A total lunar eclipse could either appear as an annual, it can appear in two ways, but typically a total lunar eclipse, once it would block out the sun completely, is what it does. It's the Earth casting a shadow on the moon, right? That is exactly what a total lunar eclipse is. And I also mentioned how the distance of the moon may play a role in and how maybe the development or the coming of future enemies or future Otsutsuki level enemies approaching, like Ada and Damon, right? There's this whole premise on destiny, this influence on destiny in Boruto franchise, I'm pretty sure that that's going to continue, right? That being said, it's if it's going to continue, then it would make sense that pretty much Ada, Damon, Code, all the future Otsutsuki's, or pretty much even Kaguya, was destined to be there to eventually come to the end, right? Whatever that may,
Definitely.
wherever that may take us. And
Right.
and my second point is kind of the main premise of this video, I guess. If you there was a specific video. I won't take full credit about this. I kind of like I did a little Googling, little YouTubing, and I came across something very specific, right? So if you guys remember, there was a special hero that Boruto loved as a child, right? He loved this hero. The name was, if I remember correctly, Kagemasa. Right? Now there's a YouTuber out there by the name of Storm. I hope I don't get his name wrong. But shout out to you, Storm. I want to say SLSX Storm. Hold on real quick. Board 2. Yeah, I'm gonna get you on this video, man. Get you on this video. I saved it. That's what I did. Watch for later. Okay. Yeah. Hold on. Was it Storm or Storm? It wasn't Storm. Storm Kage Masa. Yup. Stormy SZN. Go ahead and check out his video because this is where some of the inspiration came from. It's the Boruto is Kagemasa video. This is very, very possible. Came out about 9 months ago, looks like. But in short, right, this kind of ties into my theory a bit. How at the end of all this, wherever Code Kara takes us, in the direction wherever Boruto and Kawaki eventually take us, there's gonna be a point where that's all going to it's all going to become intertwined, right? And at some point, I believe, well, we know that Boruto's eye is the eye of hope, right? So what that means to me is that is going to be his way of overriding destiny, right? So to override destiny is to override Momoshiki's destiny, because at this point, him and Momoshiki are within the one host. They're one person, right? And so I believe once Boruto is 100%, not 18%, but has the total 100% of Momoshika's has all of Momoshika's data, then at that point there'll probably be a conflict, a decision that will have to be made that may put Boruto on the side of justice or on the side of complete darkness, right? The dark end. Quote, right? He could either become Kagemasa or he could most likely die. So I don't think the series is about Boruto. That's one of the other conversations or discussions that I had in my previous video. How some writers, they'll put a name on a series like Naruto and expect us to know that the series is about that character. But Boruto started off a bit different, right? I think that this may not be Boruto's story. What do you guys think about that? I know I've been kind of talking a bit. Well, how do you guys feel about this not being Boruto's story? And Boruto possibly being Kagemasa. Just
w- well, the whole Kagemasa thing. Basically, are you saying that Boruto is eventually going to be the evil one?
so yeah, basically in short, I'm saying that Kagemasa may be the total solar eclipse, right? The total, excuse me, total lunar eclipse. As we know, they out of all the eclipses, they are the rarest type of eclipses, and it's complete darkness, right? It's the moon, the Earth casting a shadow upon the moon, um, symbolic of the end, right? So yeah, that's basically what I'm saying. I'm saying that at some point, the reason the Otsutsuki and their hunger for power um, involves is now Boruto's destiny because now he is an Otsutsuki, meaning he must evolve, right? He will probably eventually gain the sense and urge of gaining more power, right? Of eating more chakra fruit, whether he wants to or not. Um, but I think that a lot of his control will come from the fact that one, he's a human, a shinobi, and another that he has the eye of hope, which might break that cycle. What are your what are your
Mm.
what are your thoughts?
I do think Toneri's like statements and most of the foreshadowing of Boruto's like Jogan being the eye of hope. I do think it could end like the cycle of violence or the cycle of war that we do see in Shinobis. Um, so it wouldn't be surprising if the narrators take the story in that direction. Um, and I do think like the next generation will heavily be involved in terms of like uh after the time skip because we have to remember like it's Boruto niche generations, right? So I do think eventually we're going to see the implementation of a lot of the side characters right now in Boruto that might not look as strong, Iwabe, Metal Lee, even some people say like Sarada, right? I think a lot of these characters are going to be near Otsutsuki level after the time skip. And I think the power gap from now to then will definitely be a lot wider than it is right now. Um, and I do think the Jogun will play a big part in why they're able to eventually, save the world from Otsutsuki's, potentially a Otsutsuki like invasion. I also have like a theory about like Sumire having like potentially having Kage as karma or something crazy along the lines of that. So that would be crazy as well. Like if Kaguya made a return.
That would be
Um,
interesting.
yeah, but overall, yeah, I do think the Jogun will cause a lot of destruction, but eventually, I do think that will lead to like a time of peace. So yeah, I think it's gonna play both ends, kind of. So yeah.
So
Okay. I think about it is like I think Barto already really said right. This is me and my father's story. This is like a transition into what Naruto to Boruto, and Boruto he really hasn't come out on his own as really the main character really fully. As you have Naruto, you have Sasuke, still kind of the main characters and within the story. Right? They're doing most of the main battles. As they're getting depowered, as they should, Boruto and Kawaki, as that new Naruto and Sasuke taking forward, taking that big leap to like really adulthood. This is what these characters what they start off at 13 and really grow up at really 16. They're really grown. That's when their powers are really emerging, and they run this and be one of the strongest characters in the verse.
hmm,
So soon after the time skip, this will be Boruto's story.
I don't doubt that
Go
it'll be
ahead.
Boruto's story. That I do still think the story itself is about Boruto. Although I believe it'll get to after the time skip. Of course, this is all after time skip. Um, or post time skip. That this is most likely in game, right? Um, So I think it'll come down to Boruto's ultimate sacrifice and whether or not he's willing to make the choice to either choose, power in himself at the end, you know, um, or maybe sacrifice himself for the betterment of everyone. I think that would be a good way to end off Boruto's character, especially because he basically just gauging how he started off. He started off as a brat, he had pretty much everything and kind of took a lot of things for granted and started to learn along the way. And you see now during the anime how he's kind of gauging the cycle of hatred and how he kind of whether or not he knows how to prevent it or he's capable of preventing it through his means as we know as he knows currently. um, he'll eventually have to um, it'll basically his character will develop to the point where he knows if the time comes I probably will have to make the ultimate sacrifice. This doesn't mean living in the spiritual realm, like we know when people die and they go to like this limbo area. I think this means complete annihilation for Boruto. Complete sacrifice. Because we know Otsutsuki's taken into consideration that his host is an Otsutsuki. I bring up host, I emphasize host a lot because hosts, if you look back to, the Jinjuriki, right? They say switch with me, right? Just looking back at the let's say the Naruto and the Kazekage fight, right? Where he landed in the battlefield to help out Tamari, and he couldn't kill the Kazekage, so he reached out to Intel through Intel to Killer B, and Killer B was like, "Switch with me, right? Switch with me, ATELs." So things like that, when you have to switch with your host, it's still the host that has the capacity, the chakra, right? The physical chakra, I say, but there's also that spiritual chakra side, and I think that of course these Otsutsuki level abilities kind of function on the on both, right? They are a link between both karma. I believe that once karma is activated, if activated, it is a active link between the spiritual and physical realms, right? So when let's say you hit someone, just thinking about the some of the Renegon attacks, right? How Nagato can just basically pull someone's soul out, if I remember correctly. Um, Things like that, right? These are what the Otsutsuki are capable of doing. I think there's also a misunderstanding when it comes to Otsutsukis and them, whether or not, the power scaling thing and whether it matters their power. I think it doesn't. I think as long as they're Otsutsukis, their DNA is what grants them the capacity to to um to function on another level, right? All they need is chakra. So if you look at Naruto, right? You look at the Jinchuriki. You can't just give anyone a tailed beast. They have to have the chakra to use it, right? Um, just like Otsutsukis, right? You can't just absorb a bunch of chakra, right? You have to have the host, the the vessel to use it, right? Um, I hope I'm explaining that well enough, but that's exactly what I mean. Um, when referring to a lot of the Otsutsukis and how you spoke about, Boruto Debates, you spoke about, the originator. Kaguya, and how the Jogon. Oh, I believe I spoke about how the Jogon is the natural evolution of the Byakugan, and how there's all these other mutations, the Sharingan, the Rinnegan, right? Those are all mutations. The Rinnegan just so happens to be on the level of Otsutsuki's through an experience like death, right? But only through that experience was what do we know that users, humans, shinobi are able to, um, you know, Uchiha are even able to get on that level through an experience of like death. So that's exactly what I mean by Otsutsuki levels. They function within a realm of themselves because they are Otsutsukis. They don't need a mass amounts of power. All they need is themselves. Um. So yeah, what do you think about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. What was the
Yeah.
question?
Oh yeah. So what do you think about essentially that? Excuse me. That the Otsutsuki's are essentially, they function in a different plane, right? And Boruto is essentially on that plane now. The same as
What do you mean in terms of what? What do you mean in terms of a different plane? What do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that, excuse me, let me shoot. Hold on, real quick. Sorry
Are you
about
talking
that.
about physically or are you talking about spiritually?
I mean both. I mean both entirely.
Well,
So
spiritually, I would have to disagree because we do see like a lot of the Otsutsuki's we've seen just mentally they aren't there compared to humans. Like they can easily be outsmarted. We've seen this with Kaguya. We saw this with Fuse Momoshiki. The biggest downfall with Otsutsuki's mostly that we've seen has been their characteristics, has been their mental. So I actually think that's worse than humans, and I think that's one of the reasons why Naruto and Sasuke is able to beat a lot of these high level Otsutsuki's opponents is because they're literally mentally, strategically just outplaying them, outmaneuvering them. So spiritually, I would say no. In terms of physically, I would say yes compared to a human, of course. I mean, um, just logically speaking, these are like alien beings, right? They're basically the people who brought chakra to the humans, essentially. So I do think to some degree, like physically, Otsutsuki's are superior. So yeah.
I'm not
I
saying
think spiritually. Okay, go ahead. What you think? I
so,
want to hear you say.
yes, okay, so I'm not saying like physically, right? So physically, I'm not sure what you guys, if you guys understand what I mean when I say physically, or spiritually. So as far as, um, I mean, naturally being able to adapt, right? Their natural affinity to be able to adapt to the spiritual plane as well as the physical plane, right? They may not be experts at it, but naturally, I believe they are gifted because of this. And essentially, the people that live on Earth, the shinobi that live on Earth today, um, they probably would not have lived as long as they had, if it weren't for Kage, the originator. And I try to emphasize the originator because she set things in motion when she landed on Earth and she combined her DNA with a human, and it set the course in full motion, right? We see how Hagoromo was able to float through the spiritual plane, even through death, right? Um, Without being directly linked, or having to physically imprint chakra like Minato did on Naruto, right? Before he died. He's just in that realm because he had chakra available. That's exactly what I mean by um, their natural affinity to just be able to do stuff like that, right?
Let me say this. I don't think Otsutsuki has a spiritual tie. I think they have spiritual ties. I say that based off how their culture is, right? They tend to live forever. So if you die, if you tend to live forever, how would you have ties to the spiritual world? I think the only reason the Hagoromo even had ties to the spiritual world because he's half human. Right? That's why you see he can go in and out because his Otsutsuki side is let him live, even his chakra throughout the ages, and his half human side is able to keep him into that spiritual realm. Even to his kids, right? His kids are more human than Otsutsuki, so you will see them also have a age limit to them, and they die and go to the spiritual realm. But you also see half Otsutsuki side having that reincarnation, to be reincarnated. I think the humans is the reason why they have a spiritual side, not the Otsutsuki, because even to that, right? Even when they plan to die by get sacrificing themselves, they're leaving themselves behind a vessel so they can come back. So that's what I mean. They're not having a spiritual side.
If
But
they imprint a chakra, if
not
they
saying not saying they have a soul. They do have souls. You don't see them cross in that spiritual plane.
so if we think back to Momoshiki and Boruto's conversation, um, I believe that is that plane that Momoshiki's speaking through. He's speaking through a spiritual plane. He's not physically manifested in in the real world, right? He's speaking through um, as if
It
Naruto was
also
speaking
can
to
be
the
a
Nine
mind
Tails.
space.
The mind space
It can
is
also
this.
be a mind.
The mind space is the spiritual plane. That's exactly what I mean. It's essentially part of the spiritual plane, right?
Only he can do that though.
Only who?
He can do that. Never seen him do it.
Momoshiki.
It might be just the ability tied to just him,
I'd see, and
not
that's
other
you could say that. You could say that, but we could also think a little deeper, right? We could say that it's essentially an ability that all of them have, right? It was kind of hinted when we I don't know if it was confirmed yet, but when Ishiki was speaking to Code, if that was a projection or if that was Ishiki speaking to him in his mind. We still haven't seen Kawaki ever speak to Ishiki. Um, Granted, he was alive most of the time until he was extinguished. Um,
Let me tell you why I think that's the only ability that Momoshiki has. Because
uh,
we seen Momoshiki fight Boruto in not the final valley, but off in the movie, right? It was nowhere close to Boruto to leave a karma mark. But Momoshiki, on that ability that he has, was able to leave a karma mark, being nowhere close to him. We seen Ishiki die under Kawaki's feet. If it was an opportunity to use that ability, it would have been there.
so I think that it was. If you go back to some of my previous videos, right, you'll see how I basically discussed that I think it was willingly that Momoshiki willingly allowed himself to be killed, specifically to get in contact with Boruto's chakra and put a karma on him via the chakra connection. Right? It's very possible. Now,
Yeah, but
this is me trying to weave my way through some of the plots, right? But I don't. There there are experiences out there that I brought up spiritual travel. I think it was you actually. I spoke to you about when we've seen Jiraiya travel, spirit travel and touch Naruto on the shoulder. We've seen Obito come back from the dead using his Sharingan, right? Quote to give Kakashi that Sharingan, right?
Yeah.
So he essentially gave. I don't know if he merged with Kakashi for a second. That I'm trying to correlate all the events that are similar to the experience of Momoshiki and Boruto, right? If you look back to
Yeah,
when
I think because they're human.
what's that?
That's what I think. I think that done that because they're human.
You said you think that because they're
I think
human.
they're able to. I think they're doing that because they're human. They
So
have that ties to the afterlife.
so you don't think that that Otsuzukis have souls?
I think they have souls, but I don't think they have ties to the afterlife.
Why do you think that?
Based off the culture.
So I mean, like what off of where are you getting it from? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
And they tend to live forever. That's their goal. Humans
So,
tend to die and go to the afterlife. So
but are they living
that's
forever,
why
or are they trying to gain chakra fruit to live forever?
I mean I'm saying the same thing. This is what they don't. I doubt they have. I doubt they have other contentions other than humans. I think they plan on doing what they want in every other dimension. But when you go to the humans, with their potential being so high, that's the only hard times they really had. Oh wow, this is different from every other place I've been to. Other place I can just plant this chakra fruit, get the chakra tree. But when it tends to these humans, this is the most trouble I ever had. That's and that part of I think is the reason why they have so much trouble. My pain point is I think humans have ties to the afterlife.
Okay, so you think it's specific to humans to be able to go to the afterlife.
Yeah.
So you don't think that Otsuzukis have an afterlife?
No.
Okay, and I mean that's as of now we have never seen an Otsutsuki in the afterlife, so that's very possible to that's very possible. Although it's just going back to how Naruto would speak to Kurama. I wouldn't call that a headspace. That's another part of his chakra, right? That's a spiritual side of his chakra. This was chakra 101 given in like Naruto Part 1. How Jinchurikis are able to
Hold on. Wait a minute, zone. Wait a minute, zone.
okay.
Juju,
Huh?
what you thinking? Do you think Otsutsuki have ties to an afterlife?
Um. Well, I do think they do, like, by extension of the karma. I feel like the karma is the tool of their, like, or is the function that basically gives them afterlife. Other than the karma, I don't think they really have an afterlife, honestly. Like, I think Kaguya potentially could, because she has like such strong ties to just like earth and just like nature energy in general, and the moon as well. So maybe her like spirit, similar to like Hagoromo, could be somewhere out there. But as it pertains to just like Otsutsuki's in general, I think more or less it comes down to just the process of the karma, and I think that's their afterlife function.
So as far as like Otsutsuki is dying, I don't think that they can. Let me word this correctly. I believe they have to be sealed or given a massive amount of chakra. So if you look back to how Kaguya was sealed, you can see how she turned into that rabbit, weird shaped creature. She gained so much chakra she could not maintain her sanity, right? She it wasn't a chakra fruit. It was chakra from the earth, right? It was a different source, um, if you will. And essentially, I think that you have to either Otsutsuki's have to either die like that, not really die, but lose control of their chakra to just lose their consciousness and be sealed to be quote unquote dead, right? Um, so as far as like differences between humans and Otsutsukis, I don't think it's the same. Of course, I have to kind of agree with you, Boruto Debates, when you say that it may be specific to humans being able to pass over to the afterlife. But what I mean is that what you call headspace, I'm calling that the spiritual realm, right? And I also agree with you, Juju, when you say that it may have some that it's also the spiritual realm that humans go when they die. There are some possible connections. I don't know if you're trying to say that, but that's kind of what I'm leaning toward. Um,
Zone.
yeah.
When I speak of head spaces, right? We know it's dealing with chakra, and chakra deals with physical and spiritual energy. I mean, we know it deals with spiritual based off what Minato did, right? He used Ninshu. Ninshu is the sharing of chakra. He shared his chakra within Naruto and his mother's chakra in case he goes overboard and he needs help. So their chakra, which is connected to their spiritual and physical energy, his spiritual soul would be there. Naruto, stopping Naruto and giving Naruto advice. So was his mother. So we know the headspace deals with spiritual chakra, right? Because we see a full nine tails spiritually, which we know is physically in him, but spiritually talking to him like his parents and stuff like that. So we know this headspace, the mind space is spiritual. I don't doesn't mean it's the doesn't mean the headspace is tied to afterlife though. I mean the mind space is tied to the afterlife. I don't think that.
Okay.
Because I think both all those instances they're tied. Those chakra, those nishu is tied to the physical plane. Without the chakras being tied to the physical plane, those would have never happened.
What do you mean What do you mean by the physical plane? Because if
That's
you remember, the chakra that was transferred through an event like death. I'm bringing up death for the second time now. First time was Madara, Sasuke, and then of course Naruto. So I guess three times. It was an event through death that was provided by an Otsutsuki, um, which is where I'm trying to get at, right? Uh, he resided in that space, right? Now, I don't think it may be that Momoshiki may not be able to transfer to other people. It may be exclusive to Boruto, but other Otsutsuki who have a karma link may also have that same link with their host, right? That is what I'm saying. And I think that
But
what's that?
think about this, right? He didn't do that till after he died. He didn't do that before.
Who didn't do that?
Momoshiki did that after he died. Or during. Do
Are
that
you talking about?
before, and we don't see Ishiki do that. I think that just might be an ability exclusive to Ishiki.
Can you
I
explain?
remember that exclusive to Naruto. Minato. I'm right. Momoshiki. Jeez.
Can you explain?
Okay. The mind space looks like why I think it's a mind space, because we already seen Sasuke can see within that mind space using his Rinnegan. I think because the level of power that's going on right there, being an Otsutsuki. But we also seen Sasuke go into Naruto's mind space with his Sharingan. Right. So it can be mind space related.
So
It
I
seems like talking and doing everything within that same amount of time, because it seems like time doesn't move when all that's happening. So it can feel like they've been talking for 5 minutes, but only ain't a second pass.
that we did see. I'm glad you brought that up too. I mean, I think the reason why Sasuke could see him, of course, is because he's Rinnegan. I mean, I think that's pretty much a given, right? His Rinnegan, the Rennegans that we know, they are on the level of Otsutsuki, right? They function on the same plane as Otsutsukis. But they are not. They are still a mutation, right? They're on the cusp of Otsutsuki. But what I've stated previously, I don't think Otsutsukis would have any other dojutsu other than a Byakugan, unless of course they absorbed a fruit, right? Um, I believe that of course the Jogan is through a specific lineage, a specific bloodline, um, and capacity uh, of certain of course certain bloodlines to be able to gain a Jogan. So I think it is a natural evolution of the Byakugan. But I think that more so that of course over time Boruto may gain more access, more knowledge, not necessarily knowledge from Momoshiki, but gain I don't want to say knowledge, a stronger capacity to utilize the Jogan, since he is now his host is now 100%, right? His host being the physical chakra plane, and his 18% and Momoshiki's 82% being on the spiritual chakra plane, right? So that's sort of how I see that.
Sure.
I don't know, I kind of play with the fact that I think it'd be really cool for like Boruto to his Jogan to basically be like the Avatar, right? So we know that the Avatar, once he or she goes into, they sit down, right, and they travel to the spirit world, right? They project themselves out of their bodies to go visit that world. I think it'd be really cool for that to be implemented as well. But like again, I wanted to talk about that in a later video. That's just a point that I thought that might, of course, assist when talking about, um, I guess the different planes and how, just to rewind it back a little bit, how
there's definitely a lack of input, development, and insight provided by the writers. So we see that there are all these. There are three people with karma, right? But only one of those have spoken to Inochitsuki directly through a means of headspace or spirit world that we know of. Um, we haven't seen Kawaki's development. We see his, I guess, internal monologue, but we don't see what he sees, right? We don't see things how he sees it as a main character yet. Um, we're seeing Boruto as his main character through his eyes, but we haven't seen other people's I guess abilities or interactions or experiences through their eyes. I think that's what we're lacking. Uh, I think that's a lot of the friction might be or our misunderstandings might be coming from that. I think that's pretty much a given, and once it's actually explained, we'll actually um, have that confirmation.
Juju,
Mhm.
you think about the mind space and the spiritual connection between those two? What Momoshiki did between what Ishiki didn't do?
Well, I just think there it's the method in which their karmas were applied to the vessel, right? With Boruto, obviously, it seemed as if it was more of a I don't want to say spiritual application. I guess it could be a physical application or it could have been a spiritual application versus like the way Kawaki had his karma applied was definitely like a physical application. We saw Jigen put his hand like in the jar and we saw like all the children get like the karma seal or whatever. So I think it just depends on the method in which they're applied, and that's why we see like Momoshiki and Boruto's mind space. Um, so I think that's the main reason why. Um, so yeah.
And you see
Interesting.
that Momoshiki seems to be a little different than Ishiki, right? Momoshiki has different abilities. Like he sees, I don't know what y'all think of him being having foresight. I don't know if you can call that a spiritual thing, physical thing, but he seems to have some kind of foresight that doesn't give him the whole picture, right? So even that on itself, like he's a different breed than Ishiki, right? They do different things. So yeah. The only thing that seems to be the same is their motives.
There was just a video that I watched recently that also kind of like, I guess it kind of worded things a little better. Forgive me if I'm not like remembering a specific video, but essentially what they were saying is that Boruto will be taking a different path than someone like Kawaki, right? Um, and how they went about this is they kind of explained how initially Boruto started off uh, with technology, but in the future he'll most likely run closer um to his gaining, being more familiar with his abilities and his knowledge, and really understanding how chakra and his karma works. And I think that kind of plays into him being more uh, spiritually, I guess, focused, for lack of a better word. I think Kawaki, if we don't get any inner dialogue anytime soon, I think there may be a lot of focus around his abilities still. Because in a sense, I still kind of think that Ishiki is stronger than Momoshiki, just because of um, his dojutsu. So I think that Ishiki's probably consumed more chakra fruit than Momoshiki, and I think it kind of, you can see it when you look at the fight between
You know how Naruto had to go into Baryon mode, which was a specific type of mode that uses a specific ability just to um, lower the lifespan. I think life energy will definitely play a role in the future. I discussed how Sarada kind of makes will eventually probably gain an ability like that. I call it life energy manipulation attacks, right? Or just the life energy manipulation abilities. And it'd be similar to Baryon mode. I kind of compare that to Ada and her Senraygon, right? And how her abilities is essentially linked to a life energy manipulation, right? Similar to Baryon mode. And I think that that'll most likely be another way that characters can be rid of Ototsukis. If it's not sealing, it's due life energy manipulation. Um, so is Ada and Damon are they Otsutsuki? I don't know. Um, I can't say for certain yet. Um,
But we can say this:
what's that?
when Sasuke went into that dimension, we all know that there's two things that was scratched out. Right, two the two rock images that were scratched out, destroyed. And what do we have? We have two androids. Seems to be tied some kind of way. What's going on, mainly in the back of the story. But
Yeah,
I do think they're human. But I also think something with Otsutsuki. That's my thoughts, though.
that's a very good point. I actually forgot about that. But no. That's actually it's very interesting how that's kind of just like conveniently placed there, right? And you got Ada and Damon with these very convenient dojutsu. So they may have the karma of these two Ototsukis, but where are these Ototsukis? Are they controlling Ada and Damon like Ishiki was? Or similar to how Ishiki was doing Jigen? I don't know. I can't say for certain, but that is a very good um that's a very good correlation though that you're making. I appreciate that one.
Juju?
My bad. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
No. I said I think some kind of correlation to Damon and Aiden. I mean Ada and Damon. Those two marked out on images of Otsutsuki that came through, where Sasuke was in that dimension.
I think it's definitely a possibility of that. I wouldn't mind that. I just have a couple, suspicions of like Ada because it was alluded to the fact that they surpassed Jiga's power level. And looking at Ada, I just don't know if this is the case. But her ability itself just links her to Otsutsuki. So that alone could like make her probably like the vessel potentially or some sorts. And then obviously Damon being her brother would tie him in as well. So yeah, I definitely see the potential in that.
And we see in these tag team situations, right? It always seems to somebody being stronger than the other, but also the other side of that, there have being that completeness. Kind of like Momoshiki and Kenshiki, right? Momoshiki had the power. Kenshiki really had like he had the power too, but he had mostly the what is it, Kenjutsu and the Taijutsu, right? It's like a half to each coin. Like one side is this way, the other side is that way. It seems to be like that on Ada and Damon's side, like a Otsutsuki pair. She has that power, right, to attract the people, and Damon seems to have that kind of not really taijutsu, but that fight that night that he seems to be.
Oh yeah. I also I do agree with that. I did make a video on this very thing though. So I were you in that video? I'm not sure. I gotta go back and check now. Were you in the video? Anyways, essentially what I was saying, right, is that Ada would basically be um her let me see. It was basically a type of tide, right? So she would have the influence of the moon, and Damon would have an ability of the moon, right? So shoot, you gotta go back to, if you're watching this video, you gotta go back to the Ada and Damon video to just to check that one out. But that kind of clarified how like um I believe that it's very hinting. There's all these subtle hints saying they're very close to Otsutsuki's. Which is why I kind of brought up the fact that they are um these solar eclipses, right? They are partial solar eclipses to be exact. Ada, Damon, and Code. I mentioned all three of those as being partial solar eclipses. So we know partial solar eclipses happen extreme way more often than um than a total solar eclipse or even a lunar eclipse, right? So that would basically, and essentially what I'm saying by that is that all of these Otsutsuki level threats are inching us closer and closer to a final boss. Whether that's Code, whether that's Boruto, I think that's still up for debate. Um, I think that I think that it's still very hinting. It's getting us closer to that end game point. And if you look at these, I don't know if you checked out the theories that we posted in the theories chat, but essentially, if I'm just scrolling through, like we see a picture of Kagemasa, and he's Boruto and Sarada are pretty much looking at him, and it's saying like, hey, everyone's crazy about him too, right? And then I post some pictures of Boruto on TV and him being questioned by like interviewers wanting to interview him, right? That's the very next clip. And then another clip is when he actually goes to investigate Kagemasa because Kai sees the actor, right, who's playing Kagemasa, who's also a threat, but he has this aura, right, this dark aura. Um, and he's like, and what he says, the actor or someone says, I don't know if it's him or Sarada, but someone says the actor who plays Kagemasa is under a lot of stress, right? Then I clip back to the actual dark aura, who has these eyes, right? This dark aura has eyes. What is this dark aura? This dark aura is very interesting to me. I am fascinated with this dark aura because we haven't seen Boruto see any other type of aura like light aura. Is that because there is if you look back to the eye that Kagemasa has, it's a dark eye, right? It's an evil eye, if you will. It's not a pure eye. So could there be an event that eventually gets Boruto to that that could basically teeter between Boruto becoming a dark eye, or become his pure eye becoming a total lunar eclipse, um, the shade that blocks out the moon, um, or and maybe it would have the opposite ability that um, he sees only the light. Only those that are, I guess, radiating good energy, if you will. I don't whatever this dark energy is. I don't know if it's like Black Zetsu, where it's Black Zetsu was basically this blob of goo that we were like we don't know what this is. A lot of people didn't know what it was or didn't care. It was just this fodder, piece of white um, plant that would just follow people around and do reconnaissance. But this black aura is actually controlling people, and it's influencing people. And then in the fight, actually, the actor Kagemasa is actually influenced by this, like other people. Metal Lee has been influenced by this dark aura, and in this fight, Kagemasa is actually throwing dark like metal rods at Boruto. If you remember the episode, I don't recall specifically what the episode is at the moment. Could be like 20 something. Uh, but he's throwing like metal rods, like just beams at him, right? And then I kind of share a picture. I started looking for a picture of and certain clips of Momoshiki throwing dark rods, right? Because I know Otsutsuki's that can just like throw those dark rods. Most of us have seen the majority of Otsutsuki throw those dark rods. Next clips would be, I guess, Kagemasa being knocked out with that dark aura basically evaporating out of him, right? And Boruto pretty much there saying he's been possessed by a weird shadow, right? And then I kind of conveniently post a picture of Boruto being possessed by Momoshiki, right? So there's definitely I feel like there's definitely some correlation between this dark shadow and the Otsutsuki, because as of now, I don't think us as an audience understand or know what these Otsutsuki are, right? Where do they come from? What do they do? What is their primary focus? We know they like chakra fruit, right? We know how they survive. Um, we don't necessarily know their origin, but this is a hint, and I think this is something hinted very, very soon um, within the Boruto Next Generation series, right? Uh, so I think that's pretty cool, and essentially at the end of that episode, what's interesting to me is that it says there's this clip where Boruto, Himurari is basically she has the glasses that Boruto would wear for Kagemasa, and Boruto. Let me see if I could like post it. Uh, oh yeah, you get Juju. But essentially, like Boruto has this. He has this one eye open, and it's the same eye as the Jogan. But he says, "I don't need it anymore. It's the mask that Kagemasa has." I just thought that was interesting. An interesting way to tie that up. I don't know. What do you think about that whole premise? I don't know if we closed on that yet. Uh, Debates.
So I've seen the arc. I like the arc. How I see about that. They already talked about how Donzo was somewhat close to what the Otsutsuki was doing. Um, I guess in the dimension that the Otsutsuki had. I mean, no, my bad. The dimension that he had for new.
Uh,
And somehow he was just close. Um, that's what had made his Shogun go off, I have no idea. But it seems we all know that his Jogan comes on. Excuse me. His Jogan comes on in Otsutsuki related activities. For why it came on, I don't know. But we know it did come on. So that's all I can really say about that.
Okay. Now, I mean, so I think I don't know. As far as like his Jogan, I think that pretty much it's because he's still human, right? Or he was still human. He wasn't 100% Otsutsuki. His host wasn't 100%. And so, as far as him being able to control it, I think that was a huge factor. And I think it'll probably come easier now that he's 100%. And I think it'll become even more easier, or at least he'll gauge it. He'll gauge the understanding of being able to access it easier as he gains more of Momoshiki's data. I think that'll probably most likely be how he'll control the Jogon more efficiently. And hey, just to bring up something else though that was kind of discussed. So Kagemasa, right? There are like two definitions I kind of dropped in the theories chat. Let me see if I could hold on real quick. Yeah, so the first one it was not really a theory. It's a mythology. Um, so it's based off of mythology, Kagemasa, which is funny enough because this is a lot of the influence that the creators for to use are mythology based, and science based, and so just to tie this in there, it says Kagemasa was a samurai descended upon the Tara clan who fought for the Minato clan and the Gasanen War of Japan Heian period. He is famous for having continued to fight after losing an eye in a battle during that war. This was in 1085, when Kagemasa was 16 years old, right? Very interesting. So he lost an eye when he was 16 years old, right?
Okay,
This
yeah.
the second one, and we know that based off of episode one, Boruto's most likely going to lose that eye.
Hmm.
So so the second one being where his father was a powerful official, right? The exact identity of his father is unclear, but most scholars cite that either Tara, uh, just name, yeah, all right, yeah. So his father was a powerful official, essentially, right? Which this is talking about Kagemasa. Funny enough, a lot of that resembles Boruto, but just looking a bit deeper into this, just the mythology of Kagemasa, there's too many similarities to not correlate to two, right? This was something that was kind of beat on maybe a few months back, but I want to really tie this into the whole end game plot, right? How Boruto could be the enemy that we don't see. Um, he may not seem like a threat now, but I think that certain events may lead to essentially Boruto having to be forced to make a decision and to trust um, the next generation. Thoughts? Any more
Oh,
thoughts?
hello?
Yeah. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah. Okay, any thoughts on?
Or to possibly being Kagemasa?
Oh, I mean, in a sense, story wise, yeah, that hero that has an eye, and that hero using that eye for the better good, but no being, I guess, in the sense that eye is evil, but I wouldn't say the eye is evil. Boruto, I think his body is evil based on him being taken over by Momoshiki. So that's what two sides, like one coin, that the eye being that hope and what's inside of him being that evil that he has to battle through.
Okay.
I think the story lines up. I don't know why I call him that name though. You know,
Oh no, I wouldn't call him that name. I would just say that the character who is the just what the actor itself uh himself did, as well as the character of Kagemasa actually portrays, right? And why Boruto is such a big fan of it, and why they kind of introduced that previous very soon, as if they didn't want to combine it with a lot of the karma stuff, um, which is why they kind of hinted the Jogan sooner. But I think it's going to make a very very strong introduction. Um, Soon into the time skip. I think during the time skip, I think it'll be extremely relevant. Um, as of now, I don't think its relevance is vital. Could we see an appearance by it? Possible. Is it? Is it going to be like something that um, it's going to be crazy? Is going to be crazy power amps? I don't think so yet. I think when we see it, it may just be hinting toward other things. Um, but I think it definitely plays into like some end game role stuff. I kind of just wanted to explain my thoughts on how who Boruto is the character, and then also previous events and the certain tools that the writers are actually using, and how they may they're emphasizing certain things that we may not see because they are the writing itself is not it doesn't seem linear, um but they put a lot of things in the quote unquote filler episodes that unless you watch it for what it is and not because you want to see Naruto, then I don't think you really fully understand a lot of the or fully appreciate it for what it is. And I give it a lot of negativity, and I'm still gonna do that until I see some progress and some character development. I'm gonna give it all the hell in the world. But until then, still trying to appreciate it for what it is. But yeah, I think at this point, um, probably wrap up this video and then see what possible plans in the future for another video. I think we're probably gonna do another topic after this, depending on the circumstance. But anyways, I wanna give a huge shout out to Boruto Debates, Big Juju for stopping by. Appreciate you guys. And you travelers, if you made it this far in the video, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Because to help us gain better quality videos, if you will. So
With that being said, it's good seeing you guys, travelers.
Peace.
I'm counting days, look at these eyes, they're not here to please you. There was a time you could be mine, before all that you put me through. I knew that you were trouble, but I love that you were bad. I'm living in this bubble and it makes you so mad. You can say hello, but I don't need you to like me. Don't need you to like me. Don't need you to like. You can watch me go, cause I don't need you to like me. Don't need you to like me. Don't need you to like. You can say hello, but I don't need you to like me. Don't need you to like me. Don't need you to like. You can watch me go, cause I don't need you to like me. Don't need you to like me. Don't need you to like me. You can say hello, but I don't need you to like me. Don't need you to like me. Don't need you to like. You can watch me go, cause I don't need you to like me. Don't need you to like me. Don't need you to like.